If I could have a penny for every Gibson Les Paul I ever bought, I'd be a millionaire. And I just bought this one. And this is a 1958 reissue, also known as an R8. So we're going to throw it on the bench and do a detailed review just for you. There's an old Chinese proverb that says, I can't afford to buy a cheap guitar, which was a real convenient excuse to buy this one. In fact, I bought this guitar just to make this video. So I hope you take the time to watch it. In fact, there will be two versions of this video. The free public version, available, well, to the public, right? And then there will also be an expanded version of this video with some exclusive content. So this video is going to branch out. So what exclusive content? Well, you see, out of the box, this guitar was good enough, just like any Gibson. But I did a whole bunch of work to it, and I recorded all that on video, and I'm throwing it into the expanded version of this video, which will be available to Patreon members with contributor or above level. And by the way, there's a link below to join the Patreon, right? You get my hint, right? So, welcome back to Guitar Quackery. Oh, excuse me. Guitar Quackery. No, not a chance. All right, thanks. Viewer wants to know if this is going to be a giveaway video. Yeah, right. But welcome back to Guitar Quackery, where we're not going to do a giveaway, but we are going to do a full and detailed review of this guitar and more. Gibson Les Paul R8 custom shop. R8 means reissue 1958 model. So we're going to look at this guitar very closely. It's my guitar. I just bought it. A gift to myself. I don't know about you guys, but first thing I look at when I see a Gibson guitar, especially when I buy a Gibson guitar, is the logo. So let's have a look at that. I really love this logo. Now, on this one, the logo is slightly different from the logo you see on a Gibson USA. And that's because they are trying to replicate how the logo looked in 1958. It's a little more rounded, etc. And this part here is silk screened. So once again, they're trying to make this look and feel the way it looked and felt back in the day. I do have a microscope, so I'll show you the logo through the microscope. Here it is. This is the part that's a little more rounded. It doesn't line up exactly. It looks more handmade. The N is also a little bit, not perfect here. It's a little curved on the side. We can zoom in all the way to look at the texture. This is what it looks like. There's a little dust here. I'm not really sure how they make this, but I really love the way it looks. Now, if we zoom in on this signature, we can clearly see that this is in fact silk screened. So once again, it's not perfect. It's going to rub off eventually, depending how much I clean the guitar, I guess, how much I touch it. But this is what it looks like, and you can clearly see that this is a silk screen. They did a good job on this. Maybe a little more heavier application of whatever paint they're using. The O is slightly, well, not perfect, right? This is what I like about this guitar. The imperfections. There are plenty of imperfections on this guitar. And I want to show you some. We want to look at the headstock veneer maybe. This is not the thick veneer that we're used to seeing on what is it called? Yeah, Gibson USA models. On this one, you have this, it's called Holy, the wood, Holy veneer, that's been lacquered black, all right? And you can see how they finished it here. The nut is a nylon nut. And I also really like this truss rod cover. So this is the way they used to make them, right? And as you can see, it's slightly more away from the nut on these models. All right. I want to show you the body of the guitar. Why don't I turn it around? Got to do this carefully. I think it's safe. So now, let me just show you like this. You can see it's a very plain maple, which is my preference. I really like that. Nothing fancy. There's a little imperfection here, which I'm sure some people would hate, but I like it. It's a cherry, faded cherry, I think they call it. Now, one thing that I noticed, I don't know if you can see this, this pole piece is yellow. So we're going to talk about this. At first, I thought it was maybe a gold-plated pole piece, and I kind of like that because it reminds me of a pirate gold tooth, right? So I kind of like that. But it is not a gold-plated pole piece, and I will show you through the microscope. The back of the guitar is really good. Really nice wood grain. So I want to show you that as well. The wood grain is really nice. Has a lot of curves, patterns like this. Here it has a little swirl like a hurricane or tornado, whatever. Let's have a look at the control cavity. As you can see, it does say R8 right there. We call these bumblebee caps, although they're fake. They're just, I think, foil capacitors inside, and this is just for decoration. But look how neatly this is all put together, okay? And same with the switch. Very, very neatly soldered. The cover was this Gibson custom shop. Now I want to draw your attention to the neck. So whenever you buy a guitar, pay close attention to the wood grain. And this is what we want to look at here. This tiger stripe pattern that goes up and down. So this is called flecking. So it is visible more or less in the middle of the neck. Okay? So this means that it's quarter sawn. So you want to see this pattern. And if you follow the pattern here, it disappears here, but now you can see the growth rings going up and down here. Right? So this piece of wood is quarter sawn. It's the best possible piece of wood selection for a neck. These are vintage style tuners. You can see the serial number right here, 831387. And now I'd like to have a look at the setup specs. Now the guitar has been shipped to a different climate, so you know the setup is not going to hold up, but we can adjust it. So we have a straight edge, a set of feeler gauges, and a fret rocker. So I'd like to use a fret rocker to first make sure that the 8th fret is even. Okay, so this is an easy test. And I always check the 2 adjacent frets. Okay, no rocking. So now we can take the feeler gauges, and I'm going to take this one first, 6/1000ths of an inch. Yeah, and a straight edge, place it here. It goes through. All right, so next one is 8/1000ths. It still goes through, but I can feel that it's rubbing, okay, against the fret. Next one is 11/1000ths. Does not go through. Okay, so let's take this one, 8/1000ths. Let's go over to the other side and see if the neck is symmetrical. So here, it does not pass. So we have 6/1000ths here, and it does pass. So we have a little bit more relief on the bass side. It's a little bit asymmetrical, but it's really not a big deal. In fact, some luthiers like to level the frets a little bit more on the bass side to achieve this. So if you are going to have an asymmetrical fretboard, this is the better way. Have more relief on the bass side of the neck. I want to show you this old style truss rod. So this is how they made them back in the day, in the 50s. It is slightly more away from the nut. The nut is a nylon nut. We're going to look at the nut under the microscope. And yeah, and the frets have been plecked. They didn't do this back in the day, but now they do it. And the frets have fret nibs, so they don't go over the binding. The binding extends up a little bit, and you have these Gibson style fret nibs. What else can I show you? I'm going to take the strings off. Maybe I can show you. Maybe, yeah, I think I should show you the nut under the microscope with the strings on. We're looking at the high E string. We want to make sure it's tight at the front end and that there's a little bit of slack at the back end. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Now the B string, check it. It's tight, and there's good. There's slack at the back end. Now the G, nice and tight, and we do have some slack at the back end. All right. We have the D string, nice and tight, some slack at the back end. I'm going to remove the strings later, and we'll examine the nut. Here we can see from the side what it looks like. Oh, the veneer, the headstock veneer. So what you see here is the veneer on top of the mahogany, right? And it's been thinly lacquered black. So this is the vintage spec on this, right? On a Gibson USA, you will see a very thick black plate, totally different material used. Okay. Yeah. One thing we want to look at is the relief on the nut. You could call the action on the nut. Some call it the action, some call it the relief. Those are two different things. Let me explain. So if we look at the nut here, we see that there's a small gap between the string and the first fret. That's called the action. But if we push down on the string so that it touches the second fret, we have a small gap left over, right? That's called the relief. It could be 0. It just can't be a negative number, right? So it should be as close to 0 as possible. I measure the relief using a dial indicator. So this probe, also called a plunger, goes over the string. And now I push down on the string so it touches the second fret. And now I can measure the leftover distance. So this is pretty good on the high E string. I try to get as low as 2/100ths of a millimeter, which are 2 check marks. This was 5. It's fine. Let's measure the B string. That appears to be much higher. So I can file this down a little bit. G string, same thing. D, I can do better than that. A, quite high. And the E string, very high. All right. So we don't want the bass strings to be too high because we increase the pitch of the fretted note if it's too high, because we are bending the string a little bit. If we bend it sideways, we would increase the pitch, right? So we want to file it a little bit lower than that. I'm going to take the strings off, and then we are going to examine the string slots under the microscope, the frets under the microscope. We're going to examine all the frets with the fret rocker. We'll examine the pickups and the bridge when the strings are off. We're going to continue with this review, but we're going to see it naked, right? So that's coming up. And it's still included in the free version of the video. So if Patreon thing is not something you're considering, maybe you want to consider clicking the link below that says buy me a coffee. And that way, at least you make a small contribution. Every penny that you contribute to this channel will be used to make more of these videos, to buy tools and guitars and whatever I need to use to make these videos. So yeah, so now let's go back to the shop and we're gonna see it naked. I stripped the guitar, I removed the strings, I removed the truss rod cover, and I loosened the screws on the pickup rings. I removed the bridge and the tailpiece. Let's focus on the frets first. With a fret rocker, I can show you, we don't expect to find any uneven frets because this guitar has been plecked. Although a pleck job, I have to admit, does not always come out perfect. That's just the way it is. But I went over all these frets. There are no uneven frets. I want to check if the frets are seated all the way. And as you can see, they are. I cannot insert the feeler gauge underneath any of the frets. They're all good, right? So the fretboard is good. Why don't we look at the pickups? We're going to look at the frets under the microscope, but first let's just examine the big stuff. So these are PAF pickups with the vintage style pickup rings. Let's have a look. Remove this one. It does say patent applied for right there. And as you can see, that's a long neck tenon. Okay? That's how they made them in 1958. And obviously this is a reissue. Okay, I put this back. Now this one, I especially like the pickup ring on the bridge pickup. And, you know, that's the vintage style. That looks really nice. It does say patent applied for here. Look at this. This is really, really nicely made. All right. And remember, this pickup has the pole piece that looks a little yellow. All right. Depends how the light hits it. I think you can see that. The gold tooth. These. So these posts are screwed straight into the wood. That's a premium feature. That's not the case on all Les Paul guitars. I did remove the pick guard, and you can see what the wood looks like. Oh, here we wanted to look at the maple cap. We can see that it is a solid maple cap. Well, that's how it is. We would expect it to be, obviously. And you can see the growth rings going in this direction, sideways. That's not a big deal. That's just the maple cap. Okay, this doesn't have to be quarter sawn. So, now it's time to look at the nut and the frets through the microscope. We're looking at the E string slot. So I'm going to hit it a little bit at the back end with a file just to slope it down a little bit more. As you can see, the string was pushing down at the back end, so the pressure was distributed throughout the entire string slot. I like to have more pressure at the front end, and it seems that it wasn't really pushing down at the front end here. So I'm going to perfect this a little bit. Almost same situation here. I'm going to hit the string slot right here with a file. Well, in fact, this one is a little bit too high, right? So I'm just going to file it down. I'm going to file this one as well. We do have the same situation here. So this nut was cut on the Plek machine, right? So the Plek machine tends to cut these two straight, but they really need to be curving downwards at the back end. All right, now the A string, same situation. The E string, which we know is too high, same situation. All right, it's not a big deal. The guitar plays well as is, but I'm just going to file down the string slots a little bit lower. Now, let's have a look at the frets. So we see the Gibson style fret nibs, and I do have to admit they are very well shaped, okay? Now, the polishing could be better. They just run a little sandpaper up and down after the guitar comes out of the Plek machine. But I am going to do a mirror polish on the frets. Now, this is very nice the way it's shaped at the ends, right? Now you can see a little bit of fret wear already because I've been playing the guitar. Let's move over to this fret. That's the second fret. Very nice. A little bit of fret wear already. Here. So I've been playing the guitar for about a week or so. Now we want to look at the inlays. As you can see, they're nicely cut. All right, so that's some kind of filler they use right there. That's the only way to make it work, I guess. Unless you want to cut it by hand. Now the other inlay is even better. So you can see the filler material around the inlay. It's nice and tight. Now, we want to look at the pole pieces. I want to show you that yellow pole piece that looks like a gold tooth. So let me turn the guitar around. And here I have to elevate it. So this is what it is. It's just a little bit of rust. You can also see some steel wool particles. And I don't think that happened at the Gibson factory because this guitar had been returned to the store and then I bought it. And we don't know what happened after it had left the factory. I don't think they use steel wool at the Gibson factory. But I can clean this. It'll be a project. I want to show you also. Oh, you see, I almost. Okay, gotta be careful. I'm glad it's my guitar, not a customer's guitar. So I want to show you the bridge up close. We want to examine that as well. I'm just going to put it here, like this. This is a vise. We're looking at the high E string
and how it was cut. All right, so you see what I see. I'm going to fix it a little bit. Yeah, I don't like that it's got two little grooves there. Okay, so here is the B. I guess I can fix that as well. G. Now I notice that the E and the B are yellow. They show brass, and this is different. I don't know why. That's the D string. Now this one should be fixed because it seems like the string slot is too narrow for this string. And same thing here. So I am going to fix the saddles on this bridge. We got some work to do. Is there anything else that I'm forgetting? I don't think so. So, this is it for the demo. Now let's get to work.
And this is where this video starts to branch off. So if you're watching the full version of this video, we are now going to cut to the exclusive content. In fact, as I clap my hands. Ready? But if you're still seeing this, meaning me talking to you, well, it just means that you're watching the free public version of this video, which is okay, but you just don't get to see all of the work that I did on this guitar. Just some of the highlights, but obviously I had to keep the best parts for the paid version of the video, right? So if you want to see any of that, just click the link below to join Guitar Quackery on Patreon. And if you become a member with the contributor or above membership level, then you'll get to see all of the exclusive content. So the first thing that I did on this guitar was to fix some of the issues on the bridge. So let me show you some of that.
As always, I work through the microscope so that I can see precisely what I'm doing. Right now I'm looking at the low E string. I am simply going to fix this lightly. Just a few passes with the file, and I do hold the file at an angle like this, right? Because I actually want to make sure that the front end here is a little higher than the back end, right? So I hold the file at an angle. I can even curve like this a little bit, the string slot, right? Through the microscope, I can really see what I'm doing. And once I hit the bottom, I will stop. It is important to maintain a 12-inch radius across the saddles. So I might have to fix a few saddles once I put the strings on the guitar. I will check, obviously. But this preliminary work can be done away from the guitar. I want to do as little work on the actual guitar as possible. Okay, so this is getting really close now. As you can see, I'm rotating the file so that I produce a better finish. Let's zoom in a little bit. Here it is. Yeah, I know it looks rough, but remember, we are looking through a microscope. So now I'm barely pushing down just to produce a better finish. Okay, so now I can move over to the A string.
This preliminary work on the bridge took about, I don't know, about 10 minutes to complete, which is a lot less time than it's taking me to edit this video. Like, it's 1:39 a.m. and I'm still editing. Anyway, it's gonna be a late night again for me. And more work will need to be done on this bridge once we put it back on the guitar and put the strings on, just to match the radius across the saddles to the radius of the frets. You'll see this later on. Now, speaking of the frets, those are the frets. Next, you get to see one of the procedures that I frequently use to polish and buff the frets to get the jewelry polish. I use various procedures depending on what kind of fretboard, etc., right? And once again, if you're watching the full version of this video, you will get to see the entire procedure, which took about 20 minutes.
Okay. Looks good. Now I need to remove the rubber bands and the tape, obviously. You gotta be careful what kind of tape you use on a Gibson, on nitro finish. This is the purple tape, 3M, but even then, it shouldn't be left on the guitar for too long. Now we remove the rubber bands. And we're gonna have to clean up the fretboard because the polishing compound goes between the cracks.
So here you see me use a Music Nomad fret shield for the entire fretboard. You can buy that. I think it's about $55 on Amazon. I'll put an affiliate link below. But if you just want to do this on some of your guitars, maybe you should just buy more like a home kit, which has individual fret shields for different sizes of frets, and a polishing compound called Frine, also by Music Nomad. So I'll put a link in the description for that product, and also an Amazon affiliate link for the neck rest, which is called Cube, also Music Nomad. All right, so after polishing the frets, I put some fretboard rejuvenator to condition the fretboard. I don't use liquid oil like that product that they call lemon oil, because liquid oil wicks between the fret tangs and the fibers of the wood in the fret slots, and it can weaken the fret joint. So then frets can actually move. So I use this buttery paste, which I call the Guitar Quackery fretboard rejuvenator. Someday I'll tell you what it is. And I put very little of it. It's a buttery paste, right? It doesn't wick, it doesn't melt so fast, and doesn't wick between the fret tangs and the fret slots. And then I use a terry cloth to wipe it off.
This is a terry cloth. Okay, now I can reinstall the pick guard. Put the strings on, put the bridge on, put the strings on, and then work on the nut.
Yeah, we'll work on the nut later. First, I'm going to show you how I cleaned up the pickups because I did find some steel wool particles trapped around the pawl pieces. Now, I only recorded about 7 minutes of the procedure, and I am going to share the entire recording with everyone. So even if you're watching the public version of this video, you get to see the entire recording. So let's watch it.
The pawl pieces can be completely unscrewed to clean them up, but I don't think I need to remove them completely. So why don't I just show you this? We're going to be working on this one. Well, first, as a reminder, we do see steel wool particles around the pawl piece. They are there, okay? Now, I just want to unscrew it. Okay, and now if we look at it, let's focus on it. Right, we see all these steel wool particles, and this is a small piece of modeling clay, and as you can see, it picks up all the steel wool particles, just like that. Right, I just go around, and hopefully we're good to go. So now just move the microscope out of the way, and I counted 7 turns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's how it was. Now I do the same with this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay? And let's have a look. Okay, so yes, we can clearly see all the steel wool particles around the pawl piece right there. And now I just remove them, just like that. Now the question is, are there any steel wool particles left inside? Well, to be honest with you, I don't know. The bobbin is plastic, so I would imagine they were attracted to the pawl piece, which is connected to the bar magnet inside. Okay? So that's it. It's clean. Now I count 7 turns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. And I am going to continue doing this until I clean them all up.
Yeah, this is what I'm looking at. I don't know how much longer I can keep editing tonight. Alright, so next we put the strings on, and we gotta match the radius across the saddles to the radius of the frets, which in this case is 12-inch. And this is why I'm using a 12-inch radius gauge underneath the strings to take that measurement and make those necessary adjustments with a file over the saddles. All right, let's see it.
we want to open it up at the back end a little bit. Okay. We check. Oh yeah, it's hitting. Okay, I think we're good. So now I'm going to finish the setup procedure on this, and I'll just do this off camera because I'm just going to do a separate video about doing a setup on the Les Paul. How about that?
You really can't do a good setup on a guitar if your string slots are too high on the nut. Now, this nut was good enough, like any Gibson. But I felt that I could, file them down even lower. And, with a nylon nut, I don't worry about the string slots wearing out anytime soon because it's a forever chemical. It really lasts forever. So I did file them down to the bare minimum. And I didn't record everything. So even on Patreon, you can't see me file all 6 string slots. But I will share a little more on Patreon and a little less on, the free video version of the video. So why don't we watch it?
We're going to start with this string. If I just do a tap test, I can see that this is way too high, yeah? So if I remove the string and under the microscope, I can see that, yeah, it's hitting at the back end, the string, right? So I want to take down this part at the back end for sure. So that's the first thing I want to do, just contour the string slot, and you can see how it's shredding. Well, that's how a nylon nut files.
I used to think that nylon guitar nuts were some kind of flimsy, cheapo plastic nuts that guitar manufacturers just kind of throw on their guitars just to save money. But let's not confuse nylon with some other types of plastics that are commonly used to make guitar nuts. Nylon is actually the best possible material that we can use to make a guitar nut because it's durable, self-lubricating, and it's virtually indestructible. I'll make a separate video about that. But in fact, I already made a video about filing the string slots on a nylon nut, which you should watch. You can find a link in the description below. Okay, and while you're at it, just make sure you also click the like, share, and subscribe buttons. All right, thank you. So now let's go back to the shop, and I'll show you how I use the Hosco step gauge to measure the height of a string slot as I file it down to a safe level.
Okay, so it takes a while to file a nylon nut.
Yeah, so Gibson nowadays cuts the nuts on the black machine, which gets the string slots too perfectly straight, and I don't like that because the pressure is distributed between 2 points, one at the back end and one at the front of the nut, and you always want to hit the back end a little bit lower than the front so that the string doesn't hit the back end, okay, when it rests inside of the string slot. So I use the Hosco step gauge to get down to a comfortable level without having to put the string on and off all the time. And then I use a dial indicator to, fine tune the height down to the bare minimum where I want it to be, which in my case is, especially on a nylon knot, 2/100th of a millimeter. I could go even lower than that, 1/100th of a millimeter on a nylon knot, because it's not going to wear out anytime soon, okay? So you could do that with a nylon knot. The frets are going to wear faster than the nylon knot.
I guess we want to look at the frets under the microscope. So these are the frets that we were looking at before we did the fret polish. So now we'll focus on the same frets. Here, this is the second fret. So there's no such thing as a truly smooth surface. I'm zoomed in on the fret right now, so we see tiny little scratches. But yeah, this is what it looks like. So it's an improvement, better than the factory finish, and it is something that needs to be maintained. So every time you change the strings, you should be polishing your frets.
Yeah, what time is it? Oh, look at this. 3:04 a.m. I gotta wrap it up. So by the time you watch this video, I would have done all the editing and color correcting, obviously, right? What else? Oh, we went through this entire video without me even asking you to click the like, share, and subscribe buttons. Okay, which you can do right now if you want to, or please do. What else? I got more videos coming up, interesting ones. So, yeah, so you should click at least the subscribe button and the share button. This way you help the channel grow so that I can make more videos for you and your friends. I will see you soon. Thank you very much.